It's 1983 and the Smiths were enjoying a short break from the road. Morrissey manages to catch a minute to watch some television and comes across a late night showing of the 1972 film Sleuth, which in itself is an adaptation of a play. Morrissey was a lyricist deeply attached to the literary world around him. He was a big fan of taking inspiration and even borrowing lines from his favourite movies, plays, books, anything he thought would add to a song. He was also interested in class dynamics, double entendre and coded meanings. And this charming man, well, it's a classic example. The film Sleuth starred Laurence Olivier and Michael Caine, and it was an exchange between the two which would spark the wheels of the song in motion.
A jumped-up pantry boy who doesn't know his place!
A jumped-up pantry boy who never knew his place, he said.
Morrissey lifted the line and stuck it straight into his chorus. But what does it actually mean? Well, I'm going to do a good look at that in a minute, so hold on, but for now, I want to look at how the song was written before getting into all its various clever meanings and implications. There's also two stories about another line.
I would go out tonight, but I haven't got a stitch to wear.
Some say it's a tribute to Sheila Delaney's play A Taste of Honey, later adapted into a film.
Are you going dancing tonight? I can't. You never go anywhere, do you? I haven't got any clothes to wear for one thing.
However, Morrissey has claimed in interviews that this one was written out of personal experience. See, in the early years, Morrissey often had no work, no money, and simply no clothes. I couldn't possibly go to this place tonight because I don't have any clothes. I don't have any shoes. So I'd miss out on all those foul parties. It was really quite a blessing in disguise. So Morrissey was doing what he does best, weaving stories out of poetry and mystery. Elsewhere, Johnny Marr was doing what he does best, making great sounds with the guitar. But he had no idea he was about to create the Smiths' breakthrough single and change indie rock forever. For a start, he was reportedly flummoxed by the lyrics he'd seen from Morrissey. Now, he was inspired by the success of Aztec Camera, their label mates, and he sat down with his guitar and an open mind. A couple of days before I wrote this charming man, I'd heard Walk Out to Winter by Aztec Camera on BBC Radio 1, and I felt a little jealous. My competitive urges kicked in. Just 20 minutes later, he had spun his classic jangle pop style into a riff so bright and swaggering that it would change the game for the Smiths. Now, the song was actually written for a BBC radio session with the famous John Peel. Keen to impress their record label, Rough Trade, he knew he had to pull something different out of the bag for this one. So he wrote it in the key of G, which is very open and bright, and usually a key he wouldn't write in, and rarely does to this day. I knew that this charming man would be our next single. I did the whole thing in one go, into this TAC 3-track tape recorder that I used to write on. I came up with the basic chords and immediately overdubbed the top line and intro riff. Although he was given 3 hours of studio time, Marr supposedly came up with the chord structure for the song in as little as just 20 minutes, as I've said. There seems to be a pattern of bands from this era coming up with massive hits in literally no time at all. Maybe less really is more. But that's not to say that Marr didn't get creative. He put layers upon layers of different guitars, reverbs and effects together to give the song body and depth. There's even a backwards guitar, whatever that means. So the whole written in 20 minutes thing is a bit of a stretch, but he did have that structure and initial riff in 20 minutes, which is just as impressive. Now, Marr wasn't just a genius at writing guitar parts, he had a knack for making original and clever tricks to make the song unique. And on this charming man, you can hear an odd clanging noise in the chorus. I'll try any trick. With the Smiths, I'd take this really loud Telecaster of mine, lay it on top of a Fender twin reverb with the vibrato on, and tune it to an open chord. Then I'd drop a knife with a metal handle on it, hitting random strings. And the boys did this sort of thing a lot, as Morrissey was determined not to have backing vocals on this track. So reportedly they spent a night smoking, dropping things on guitars, and generally trying to create new sound effects. If you listen carefully, I think you can hear the clang in this isolated audio. Ma has said that he buried it under guitar layers, so it's quite hard to tell. And in fact, he wasn't sure it would work at first, as he'd come up with it so casually. But when they recorded it, it became obvious it had a special quality, and added something to the song. So that's how this charming man came into the world, but what is it actually about, if anything? Well, it's not completely clear at first. The song tells a basic narrative of a man whose bicycle gets a puncture on a lonely road and is approached by a charming man in a charming car. They discuss going out that night, but the man doesn't have a stitch to wear. The driver of the car then says,
It's gruesome that someone so handsome should care.
Now, if you're looking at the song with a bit of a closed mind, it doesn't seem to make much sense. But then you have to remember who's singing those lines. This song is cleverly concealing themes of potentially homosexual romance. The two men in this song are obviously flirting.
Will nature make a man of me, yeah? When in this charming car, this charming man, why pamper life's complexity when the leather runs smooth on the passenger seat?
Nowhere in the song does it spell out sexuality, but the subtext is pretty clear. There's romantic tension, coded double meanings. And this is backed up actually when you look at where Morrissey took the inspiration from, the film Sleuth. It's widely read to have homosexual undertones, though they're subtle and never explicit, just like the song. The film's plot centres on two men, Laurence Olivier's wealthy mystery writer and Michael Caine's younger rival, who go head-to-head in elaborate games of disguise, roleplay and psychological dominance that blur the lines really between rival and obsession. And the woman they're fighting over is unseen throughout the whole film, and she becomes irrelevant compared to their intimate, almost flirtatious power struggle. And this film was remade by Harold Pinter in 2007, and he leaned even more openly into this homoerotic tension. Now, many believe that's why Morrissey borrowed the famous line for this charming man. It has a clever and subtle resistance in a time where such topics were discriminated against and censored in some cases. This is something that Morrissey and the Smiths would later become known for. Their appearance on Top of the Pops supports all of this as well, with Morrissey being his totally flamboyant self, swinging a bunch of flowers around. It's full of pomp and camp. And this was the first time for many people seeing the band in a live context. They were still very early in their career, and Morrissey's flamboyant self-expression won people over. The song obviously went huge, it kick-started their career, critics showered Morrissey and Ma in praise, and indie fans embraced them with open arms as something new and refreshing and unique. This charming man set them up for a glittering career, and a cult following that still exists today. 10 years earlier, the Kinks had already tackled similar themes in their song, Lola. Fascinating story behind that as well. You can click over there for that one next.